Yes. Another edition of the Total Basis podcast. As always, I have Austin with me all the way from sunny California. Austin, how you doing this morning?
I'm all right, Felipe. How you doing?
I am great. You can tell that the coffee's kicking in. You know, I think we talked about this last time. I used to like doing the podcast at night because then they'll be ready in the morning or whatever the next day. But I didn't realize how, as I get older, Austin, how tired I get as the night goes on. And I can really hear the lack of energy at night. But, you know, with Mr. Caffeine over here kicking in, I feel like I can run through a brick wall with my football helmet.
I don't have that yet. I'm 26 and I don't even drink. I hate coffee. I don't like the taste of coffee. So I hate coffee. So I don't drink it. And I'm just a ball of energy. I go like all the time. So I don't need coffee. I would be really afraid of me on coffee.
All right. I mean, you're a teacher too. Damn. All right.
Yeah.
Well, as always, for those who are only listening, audio only. What the hell? Who can share? Who are listening to audio only? It's gonna be another one of these episodes where it's gonna be dominated by me sharing my spreadsheets. So in just a bit, I should say, I will be sharing that screen. Sorry, I got distracted with who can share the screen on the Zoom account there. But let me know if you can see my screen there. It should be like a very colorful spreadsheet.
Yep, 2021 best base runners.
And that's what we're going to talk about really quick as we're doing an homage. We continue our homage to the 2021 season that just left us. Congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. No one saw them coming, although that's another NL East team that no one saw coming out of. They basically came out of nowhere. They were told, "Oh, you might as well give up. You're never going to be good. You suck." And they decided, "No, we're going to keep going." Which is the complete opposite of what's been encouraged across all sports. Austin is like, oh well, if you're not one of the top tier teams, you might as well just give up and start tanking for next season and get those higher draft picks,
right?
Which is really, really annoying me because that's another show for another time. But the Braves, they tried. They went out and said, no, we're gonna keep going, we're gonna try. We lost Acuna, we don't have Ozuna, we'll just create a new outfield, right? That's basically what happened, right, Austin?
Yes, it is how it happened. And you know what? I really like that they used the trade deadline. I saw a statistic the other day where it really highlighted how well the trade deadline can work for a team. Taking 2020 out, so 2019 and 2020, the last two World Series champions are the Nationals in 2019 and the Braves in 2021. Mm-hmm. The Nationals were 40-41 at the trade deadline and ended up winning the World Series in 2019. And the Braves were 41-40 at the trade deadline.
Holy moly.
And made it and won the World Series this year. So it just goes to show you that if you pull the right moves in the trade deadline, and it doesn't necessarily have to be big moves. I remember when I did the big trade deadline show on my podcast, I was kind of like, yeah, they got Bryce Ball. Yeah, they got Eddie Rosario. Yeah, they got Jock Peterson, but whatever. Let's talk about Max Scherzer, you know? And so
yeah, that was the big one. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be big moves for it to have great impact later on in the season.
But Bryce Ball was the guy who went to the Cubs, and I remember going on Dong City with Henry and Vince, and I go, Bryce Ball, whatever. This guy's a bum, and who knows? Maybe he's our next Anthony Rizzo. We'll see how that goes for the Chicago Cubs. As I'm wearing my Cubs hat today, honestly, there's no preference here. This was the first hat I brought from my hat collection. That's the Cubs before the White Sox fans. So how come you're not wearing your White Sox hat? Like, shut up. White Sox fans, they're so sensitive. Anyway,
I saw how you organized your hats. I saw that post.
You saw that? Yeah.
I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you need a hat organizer.
No, man, it's just another thing for me to worry about. It's great. My shoes are there. I put them on my feet, and my hat's at the very top of that shoe rack. So I put that on top of my head, and that's where all my beanies are as well. So winter's coming. So I actually wore my beanie. I've been wearing my beanies this whole time. It's been pretty frigid here in Chicago the last week. Although, like I said, today, 66 degrees. So we got a little heat wave going here as my wife and I are celebrating our wedding anniversary this weekend. And this is how I'm spending it. I'm spending it with you guys, talking baseball from Maine to Louisiana. So the spreadsheet that you see in front of you is an array of stats that I compile. I did this last year with Sean. I'm doing them again this year because I enjoyed, this is my pastime there, Austin. This is how I have fun when no one's looking. So we start out this with stolen bases. What was the minimum? 400 plate appearances and a minimum 15 stolen bases to qualify. And Starlin Marte led everybody in stolen bases this year, followed by a who's who of base running, with Merrifield at second, Trey Turner finishing in third, Cedric Mullins, who kind of had an explosive year this year, breakout year of sorts finally for him, Tommy Edman, Miles Straw, Jose Ramirez, Shohei Ohtani, Bo Bichette, and Fernando Tatis Jr. round out the top 10. Were there any surprises on that first column that you see there, Austin?
Base running? No, honestly, I don't think so. I'm not really surprised at all with that. Shohei Ohtani, he used to be a really, really bad base runner. He would make bonehead base running decisions and get thrown out a lot when he would get on base. And it was really frustrating as an Angel fan to watch him run around the bases as fast as he does and then get thrown out because he makes a bonehead decision or stop. I always hate that. Like, don't stop. If you're going to run, like, be aggressive,
Be aggressive.
But, he's really, really improved his base running, and it showed. There were a lot of base running moments that he did that were really, really nice. They were really good heads up base running. So good for Shohei Ohtani to come up and really become one of the better base runners in the game.
And that's my shocker, is to see Shohei Ohtani finish in the top 10. I know that he was doing a lot of triples and stealing more bases. I didn't realize it was top 10 good, which would explain how Sean won the Baseball Life Championship fantasy league this past season. So Ohtani, I knew that he was a good power hitting left-handed slugger and a really good pitcher. The base running aspect of things, that one was very surprising to me. So we move on.
You know why he's getting better at base running? Because he's getting on base more.
What a concept. And you know what? That was one of the things I wanted to discuss, but I ran out of time here. Baseball Reference has a bunch of statistics for base running, running from first to home on a ball in play, or running from first to third, or scoring from second to home, and that those types of accumulated stats. And I wanted to see.
You'll have to send me that link. I've been looking for a link. For a stat like that.
And it's Baseball Reference, so it's kind of tricky to find that. But yeah, I wanted to discuss that, but we're not going to have time to do it today. But when I did this way back in 2013, when I was doing writing articles, sports articles for xnsports.com, I did a 3 or 4 part series on base running. So, because that's what people demanded to see, right? Well, back in those, I mean, you got to think 2013 was like the start of it was the peak of that debate between the traditionalists and the advanced analytics crowd.
Right.
And so yeah, that was still a thing. So I said, okay, well, how important is speed, or how important is it to have a speedy guy on your team, or a guy who's really good at base running or whatever? So when I looked at those stats, like from going from first to home, or from first to third, second to home, and all that stuff, or even triples. Well, triples, maybe not triples, although Shohei Ohtani. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. But yeah, if you're on first base, can you get to third or home plate are the main ones that I was looking at. And that list was littered with guys with very, very high on base percentages. Like, think Joey Votto and 7 or 8 other guys like him, and maybe 2 speed burners that you would consider as speed burners on that list. So my conclusion was, it doesn't matter if you have speed or not. What matters is like the guy that the hitter gets on base, and you will see that those productive base running around the diamond that everybody's always looking for. Half the battle is just getting on base, is what I found out. And it's probably true to this day, although I haven't done that research in a very long time. But that's what I found out in 2013. And and then the Royals did the Royals thing in 2015. And even then the Royals were like, well, they got like 2 or 3 speed demon guys. Everybody else is hitting 20 plus home runs in 2015 to win that World Series championship. So, but I guess what I'm saying is that base running is not the most important thing ever, but I still like to highlight that aspect of the game, because that is something that is calculated in Fangraphs WAR, and it's something that's deemed important as well with real baseball teams. Go ahead.
Well, with the 2015 Royals, the biggest moment that I think of in that World Series run
Hosmer.
is Eric Hosmer's score there. That was really, really good base running. And I mean, Eric Hosmer is not quick. So, he's not very fast. So, and that's what I was always told growing up. And that's what I preach to my kids is you don't have to be fast to be a good base runner. The person I always go back to that was a good base runner that I think, I have not checked the stats, but visually seemed to be a good base runner and knew how to steal bases and stuff like that was Bobby Abreu. And Bobby Abreu was not the fastest guy on the field, but he knew how to run the bases. He knew how to steal bases. He knew how to steal bags, and he knew what he had to do with the speed that he did have. You know what I mean? He wasn't slow, but he wasn't a Billy Hamilton or a Terrence Gore either. So, you don't have to be fast to be a good first base or to be a good base runner.
Well, here's Bobby Abreu, man. He stole 400 bases. Right. So you have to have a little bit of speed there. And the metric that measures base running for Fangraphs WAR calculation, he was at plus 34.9 on the base running metric, which I think that's a pretty high number.
He was a very, very good base runner. And even, obviously stolen bases is not the entire metric for base running. Right. But when it comes to stolen bases and even like running from first to third or getting all the way around, and scoring from first, you got to know how to jump. You got to know your jumps, and you got to get really good jumps. If you don't get really good jumps, then you're not going to score. You're not going to steal the bag. You could be Billy Hamilton and have terrible jumps and have just as much chance of getting thrown out as Albert Pujols, right? So you got to have good jumps. The speed can make up for it if you don't have as good of a jump. But I think Bobby Abreu was as successful as a stolen baseman or as a base runner as he was because of the fact that he could get his jumps. He got really, really good jumps.
Well, you know where I learned my jumps from? Basketball court? No, that's a very good guess, but no. I learned my jump from Van Halen.
Oh, that was good. I wasn't expecting that one.
That
was good.
Okay, so I while you were talking there, I did the best baseball players according to Fangraphs base running metric that they use for their WAR calculation, or at the Fangraphs website leaderboard page. So 994 players qualified. Bobby Abreu finished 36th among 994 players with a base running metric of 34.9, losing out by a tenth of a run to Alex Rodriguez, but he's about 1.4 ahead of Mike Trout.
Oh, well, there you go.
So that's the type of company that Bobby Abreu was in terms of the base running. No, but my base running guy, where I first learned that you don't have to be a fast guy to be a good base runner, you just got to be smart. My guy, and you'll love this one. I know you will. Oh, I can't wait to tell you this. I'm actually looking at you directly just to see the look on your face you're going to give me right now. Is none other than AJ Prazinski.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, now that I think about it, he was a good base runner for a catcher. Usually, catchers are not that great.
Yeah, exactly. And what was the best part about him? He didn't even have to be on base to be a good base runner. He could just wait for the ball to hit the dirt and then start running to first base like as if nothing was happening. For those who don't know, Austin is a big Angels fan. So
yeah,
he remembers. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a rough existence.
Who was the catcher? Was it one of the Molina brothers, or was it Josh Paul or someone? Who was? Was it game one of the ALCS? I think
my most logical guess would be it was a Molina brother.
But yeah,
I'm not entirely sure.
That's amazing. A Molina brother who we just talked about last week, right? We talked about how good they are defensively. That they would. That's why I think it might have been Josh Paul, but we could do a little bit of research of that game while we're talking here. But yeah, Prazinski, 15 solo bases for his career. And he's a catcher, so I guess that's okay. But this is definitely, at least Bobby Abreu, your pick of Bobby Abreu, the numbers would back that up. Prazinski is all narrative based and all eye test. Prazinski ended up with a negative 65.4 base running metric according to Fangraphs for his career. So
that's tough.
Yeah, I don't think. Let's see. Has he ever been above 1 in any of his seasons? Nope. So nah. So that's where the eye test and narrative do not meet the statistic expectations. But that's still my guy, though. I mean, and probably because there's a lot of Hawk Harrelson. What do you call it? Bias in my head. Not that I'm biased towards Hawk Harrelson, just the fact that Hawk Harrelson was the guy calling these games while Prazinski was with the White Sox. Yeah, that's the guy he would. No, you don't have to be a speedy base runner. I mean, AJ will tell you that. He'll show you. All you got to do is watch. That's all you got to do is watch. Yep. So all you got to do is watch, and I believe. Okay, so I'm looking at Baseball Reference. I think that was game 2. Benji Molina is listed as a DH that game.
My bad. Get rid of that.
We're off to a rip-roaring start here on this professionally creative podcast. And it does look like maybe it was Josh Paul that because they start. I mean, Benji Molina is your DH, and then Jose Molina is also your catcher. And then, so I guess Molina was pinch ran for he got a pinch runner sometime late in the game with Jeff Devannon, maybe. And then Josh Paul came in as a defensive replacement, former White Sox player, and also a local boy here in Chicago, one of the suburban Chicago area high schools. And I think he's the one who dropped the third strike and did not tag out Prazinski. Prazinski noticed that, he got the error. He's listed as getting in the error in that game. And Prazinski was able to steal first base from the Angels, and the rest is history.
It was Josh Paul.
Oh, well, there you go.
Josh Paul was the catcher.
Yeah, so it's an inside job, man. Former Chicago boy does good. Next on this list is the 3x5 hero. So as you know, Austin, this Total Bases podcast, the roots come from being a fantasy baseball podcast, and then it just morphs into like other talking points that involve real life things like A.G. Prazinski stealing first base from these Angels in 2005.
Right.
So, but the 3x5. So I got traditional 5x5 roto leagues. It's what is it? Batting average, home runs, RBI, and stolen bases. All right. Well, something I always tell Sean and everybody else is like, I refuse to pay a premium on stolen bases. I think, personally speaking, I think you don't get your money's worth. You actually lose a little bit of the other categories every time you just go straight to a guy who steals bases. So I don't do it that way. But then again, I don't normally play in 5x5 leagues anyway. It's mostly head-to-head and categories leagues where you can customize it and have a million categories in that. So you end up looking for players who can help you in multiple categories, and that should help you. But anyway, long story short, if you're in traditional 5x5, these were the stolen base guys that at least help you out in batting average and runs. And Trey Turner ends up being number 1 on that list.
My man, he was in mine. He was on my team. So
there you go. So for those who don't know, like I mentioned, 400 plate appearances is the minimum. 15 stolen bases is the minimum as well. So these guys that you see on this column F here, these are the guys who met those parameters, and they placed in the top 10 in batting average and in runs scored. And just like last week, Austin, if you finish first, you get 10 points. You finish second, you get 9 points, so on and so forth. And Trey Turner beats out Starling Marte by about, what is that, math whiz? What is that? 7
points.
Yeah. Along with Bo Bichette, who's one of the more exciting players in all of baseball right now. And then Whit Merrifield and Cedric Mullins, along with Jose Ramirez, top out the top 5, as Jose Ramirez and Cedric Mullins tied for 5th on this list. So from that list there, Austin, so all the way down to who's that guy? Randy Arozarena. Any shocking names that you see that you didn't expect to see in the first place here?
Probably O'Neill.
That's mine.
would be my surprise because we talked about it last week, how jacked that dude is. And you talk about how he hits the ball really hard. The biggest quality of him is when he hits the ball, he hits it hard. His exit velocity is enormous, but I would have never expected him to be as good of a base runner as he is. The rest of them don't really surprise me because, they have some speed, or, they were that guy that was the pinch runner and, earlier in their career, like the Miles Straws and the, people like that. So, I think the biggest surprise for me is O'Neill.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, how, this guy's jacked, and, the needles that he used must break upon impact and all that. But no, I always thought O'Neill as a big hulking power slugger, not a guy who was at least stealing 15 bases to make this list. So that was pretty shocking,
right?
To see. Now I'm kind of questioning myself. Did he really steal 15 bases? Did I make a clerical error? So let's find out really quick, just to remove all doubt. But Tyler O'Neill making this list, and I don't know. Do you expect him to have a season like this for next year, Austin?
I don't know. I've said it. I've said it a couple times now. I've said it for mainly Angels players. I said it for Ohtani and for Max Stassi at the beginning of the year. I don't trust one good year. I like to reserve. Making superlatives like, he's going to be a consistently good player, and stuff like that, for when I see multiple good seasons in a row. So Tyler O'Neill has one, and one is not a streak. So I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to jump in and say that he's going to have another good season, but he's got the qualities. Obviously he hits the ball hard, and usually when you hit the ball hard, that translates into hits most of the time. Yeah. Right. So, he could, and if he's as good of a base runner as this is telling me, in terms of offense, he's poised to have another good season, but you never know. I've said it a couple times on my podcast, Round Trippers, that if baseball were meant to be played on paper, the Dodgers would be winning every year.
Yeah.
But right. But the game is played on the field. It's not played on paper. So nobody would have ever expected the Braves to win the World Series. And when you look on paper, I'm starting to look at a lot of these regular season statistics, and we'll get into a statistic that I've been talking about a lot recently. The Braves aren't anywhere near the top, but yet they won the World Series because you go out there and play it on the field. You don't play it on paper.
Yeah, well, my problem with Tyler O'Neill is that he strikes out too much. He did a strikeout percentage of 31.3%.
Yeah. He needs to get the strikeouts down for sure.
Yeah, and a swinging strike rate of 16% or higher. So that is a concern. But there's a reason why he was thought of considerably high in St. Louis. So we'll see. St. Louis was really good about just bringing up these players and giving up on them, but then bringing them up again. Anyway, that's the Cardinals, whatever.
So a little bit of patting myself on the back. I won the championship for the fantasy league that another Baseball Life member, Larry, started.
Oh yeah, he's on the podcast right now.
Yeah, what's up, Larry? So Larry started a fantasy league, and I started and I was in it, and I won the championship. And three of the players that were on there were Trey Turner, Jose Ramirez, and then I picked up Miles Straw a few weeks into the season. And I didn't have Edman. I had Carlson. But yeah, three of those that I won the championship are on your rankings here for base runners.
That'll do it, man. That's how you do it. I gotta ask you though, Miles Straw, where did you hear about him?
You.
That's damn right you did. Well, damn right. Well, I'll give credit where credit's due. You heard it on this podcast because Sean was talking, but I checked the numbers myself, and I'm like, you know what? This is a really good player. So I'm glad. See, when you listen to this podcast, good things happen to you. Next up on the docket, power and speed combination. So that's the home runs and stolen bases, right? We're always talking about, we need that power speed combination, and everybody talks about that, but nobody really takes the time to calculate, right? So again, minimum 15 stolen bases, 400 minimum plate appearances. These are the guys that you see on this list right here that might as well sort it so people can see what I'm doing. These are the guys that finished in the top 10 of this grouping. In home runs, there's Shohei Ohtani at the top of the list, followed by Marcus Semien, Fernando Tatis, Jose Ramirez, and Tyler O'Neill. The who's who of home run hitting speed burners. And there it is. Shohei Ohtani is your power and speed champion, finishing at the very top of the list with Jose Ramirez, Fernando Tatis, Cedric Mullins, and Starling Marte. So, see anybody there that was shocking? Well, Adolis Garcia, Javier Baez. Those will be the two guys in the top 14. The top 15, top 15 that kind of were shocking to see that Adolis Garcia and Javier Baez finished as the power speed combos to qualify in this list.
Adolis Garcia surprises me because I didn't think he was that good of a base runner. Mm-hmm. And Merrifield kind of surprises me because of the power. I didn't know he had that much power.
Wait, no, actually, he did not finish in the top 10.
Oh, he didn't finish. There it is.
Okay. But, he's there because of stolen bases. So,
yeah. Okay. That makes more sense. But the one that surprises me the most, I think, is Adolis Garcia. Baez on this one doesn't surprise me because he does have power and he does have speed. He has both of those. If you go back to the first episode of my podcast, I go on this rant that is the terrible play that whatever, what did we call it? I don't remember what we called it. That play that he was with the Pirates and the first baseman, I can't even remember his name.
Yeah, he's gone now.
Back to home plate. Yeah, he plays in
Korea, I think.
Korea now. I went on a whole rant as to how it was bad on both Baez and that first baseman's. Anyway, if you want to listen to the rant, go back to the first episode. But one of the things I said was he is in the top 5 in terms of sprint speed for all shortstops. So he's got the speed to steal. So that doesn't surprise me. Yeah. I have a lot of things to say about Javier Baez that are not great, but this metric doesn't surprise me.
And he's always had the pop. He's always had the power. Adolis Garcia also kind of came out of nowhere, but Baez is more of the established guy. But yeah, 18 stolen bases for Baez, 16 for Garcia. Both of them finishing with 31 home runs. That's why they got the 5 points that they're sharing right there. And the one thing that I don't like about these guys is, again, they strike out more than 30% of the time that they're up there at the plate. And they're both very impatient hitters. I mean, I've never seen this before. Swinging strike. We thought Tyler O'Neill's high 16% swinging strike rate was high. Javier Baez finished with 21.7%. That has to be a first for me. I don't think I've ever seen that before. A guy finishing above 20% who qualifies. And Adolis Garcia finishes above 17%. They both make awful contact. And they're both very free swinging hitters. So
could you imagine how great a player Javier Baez would be if he would just watch a pitch every once in a while?
That's another topic for another time. But I mean, part of the allure to Javier Baez is that he has ridiculous physical hit tools and attributes and all that. The things I'm just, if you're a scout, it just what do you call it? They attract you to it. And that is part of the allure. But yeah, from a technical standpoint, and this is something that the Cubs just couldn't figure out how to fix. Yeah, he just frustrates people in terms of the batting eye and the plate discipline or lack thereof. Moving on to the triples there, we talked about how Shohei Ohtani finished he finished first there. Although now I'm kind of questioning this list too. I wonder what happened.
No, he finished in first. I was at the game where he hit 2 triples and 2 consecutive at bats to take the lead for triples. So I believe Ohtani is the lead. It was the league leader in triples.
Okay, because when I sorted it not too long ago, it looked like he finished. It was like a 3-way tie between Brian Reynolds, David Peralta, and Shohei Ohtani. So, right, 15 stolen bases. Right, those other guys did not steal that many bases. Okay, I'm overthinking it. But yeah, one of the names that are surprising to see, Akil Baddoo, which I guess I shouldn't be surprised because he had that reputation of being pretty fast. Garrett Hampson taking advantage of that big, ginormous ballpark in Colorado. Jazz Chisholm finishes just inside the top 10. And then Robbie Grossman is a big surprise there, getting 1 point for the triple that for finishing in the top 10 along with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and David Fletcher. So how does this translate? So I have a speed demons category. And this is, what is it? Runs plus stolen bases plus triples. Again, if you finish in the top 10 within those categories and you got the 450 plate appearances and the 15 stolen base minimums, you qualify for this list as well. And sure enough, Shohei Ohtani, number one. So Shohei Ohtani just racking up all the categories. You can't even say that he's just a power slugging hitter who happens to qualify here. I mean, he's getting the triples as well. So
I mean, he can run, and he really has focused on his base running because he knew going into this season that was on top of the fact that he didn't get on base as much. That was his downfall, was when he was on base, his base running blunders really hurt the Angels. So, yeah.
And just for those who can't see, to round out the top 8 on this list, these are guys who finished with more than 10 points. It's Shohei Ohtani, Jose Ramirez, Trey Turner, Ozzie Albies, Whit Merrifield, Bo Bichette, Fernando Tatis, and Starling Marte. I mean, it's a who's who of really good young speedy hitters who can hit with pop and power and authority. So now we move on to
talk about someone who finished just out of the top 10 in that. I did not know who Nikki Lopez was until last week when we started talking about, good fielders, and he was up top for shortstops, and here he is again for base runners. And I'm like, who is Nikki Lopez? Like, all year long, I have never heard of this guy's name. And now he's showing up in the leaderboards everywhere.
Oh, Sean loves himself some Nikki Lopez. I mean, Sean has this, I think it's because it matches who he is as a person, but Sean loves these diminutive middle infielders who can just slap the ball around. I mean, I've noticed that about him just working with him the last couple of years. But yeah, his big guys, I mean, big, right? No. The guys he like brags and is like, he lights up, you can see it in his face, are guys like Jeff McNeil, David Fletcher, Nick Madrigal. I mean, for heaven's sake, he named his fantasy team after Nick Madrigal. And yeah, who's the other guy that he really loves? Nicky Lopez.
I will say I love David Fletcher, but I'm also an Angel fan.
I know you do. So. I know that's part of it, but at any rate, I mean, those are like his guys. Those are the guys that he likes, and I'm like, nah, I'm okay. I don't need that in my life. So, I just want a second baseman who can hit for some pop. That's all I want. Not these guys, not these little rodents who are just gonna burrow the ball up the middle for no reason. Anyway, I digress. UBR. Okay, so now we get to the advanced metrics. These are the 2 statistics we did not talk about last year. I figure we bring it back this year. Ultimate base running is a Fangraphs metric that measures base running, overall base running. And there's all the stuff that we talked about. Can he get the extra base? Can he score from second or first? Or is he making good, smart base running plays out there? That's what ultimate base running is supposed to measure. So let's take a look. And number 1 on the list is Tim Anderson, followed by Fernando Tatis, Elvis Andrus, Ozzie Albies, and our guy, and your guy, Sean's guy, Nikki Lopez. Oh, and Josh Rojas, another one of Sean's favorite players from this past year, rounding out the top 5. So with all that being said, on this list of going down to JT Realmuto, anybody that kind of shocks you making the top 10 on this UBR ranking?
Probably, I mean, I would guess Andrews, but I think that's just because you don't see him on any other leaderboards anywhere else. So I wouldn't have expected Andrews to be on this leaderboard, but I know he's got some speed and he has been a good base runner in the past, but I think it's just because I'm not used to seeing Elvis Andrus on any leaderboards anymore.
Well, we'll see. This might have been it for Elvis Andrus in terms of being a productive baseball regular starter. Right. So we'll see. I mean, but I know in fantasy circles, he was pretty useful, and then he got hurt. And that's all you heard from him. That you didn't hear from him ever again. Weighted stolen base. I think that's the Fangraphs metric that measures how effective you are as a base stealer. Does that stolen base amount to anything? Does it lead to anything? I guess is what they're trying to do here. So Starling Marte stole a lot of bases this past year. Yeah, number 1 in stolen bases this past year. he's number one in weighted stolen bases. So the stolen bases that Starling Marte stole, they were done with a purpose in mind. So good for him. The top 5 rounds out with Whit Merrifield, Bo Bichette, Trey Turner, Nick Lopez, and Tommy Edman tied for 5th. Then you see. So I mean, you're looking at this list. I mean, Rosario rounds out the top 10, but everybody else on this list here, Austin, it's basically the same guys we've been talking about. It's a who's who of base running. I think Ahmed Rosario kind of surprises me a little bit, but we know he's pretty fast. He just doesn't get a lot of playing time because he's not a very good hitter.
Right.
And I can already hear the Mets fans complaining about me saying that. So with all that being said, Sean, I keep calling you Sean for some reason. I'm sorry about that. Old habits are hard to kill here.
It's all right. That's not the worst thing I've been called, so we're okay.
The worst thing I can think of is calling you David Fletcher. So when you add
no, I'm Cole Calhoun. You got
right. I forgot about that. Yeah, for those who don't know what Austin looks like, he looks like Cole Calhoun. Are you left-handed as well?
I am not.
Oh, damn, that would have been awesome.
I probably don't have as good of a glove as Cole Calhoun either.
But really, who does though? Who does? Maybe Trojan.
Maybe.
Durex. So advanced metrics. This is basically UBR plus your UBR points total plus your weighted stolen base point total. And once again, Starling Marte steals the show with 14 points, getting yet another stolen base running category here. So between him and Shohei Ohtani, they really stole the show. And for those who are curious to see what these rankings look like, you can check, and you're only listening to audio only, you can check our YouTube page and check out the rest of these figures there. So let's move on to that's really tiny. Let's make this a little bit bigger. I'm still waiting for Vince to provide his all base running team, but I went with JT Realmuto, Freddie Freeman, Whit Merrifield at second base, Trey Turner at short, Jose Ramirez at third, Starling Marte at Cedric Mullins, and Shohei Ohtani in the outfield, just so I can fit in my favorite player on the Blue Jays, one of my favorite players on the Blue Jays, Bo Bichette. That's what I like to call him. I like to call him Bo Bichette, just to kind of distinguish him apart from his dad. And Austin, go ahead and list your players.
So basically what I did here to figure out, I think we talked about it in private. My methodology is still kind of evolving since I've gotten a podcast. My methodology is continuing to evolve. Yeah. So how I looked at this was essentially, I kind of took a page out of your book and I looked at rankings for each position. Yeah. So I looked at UBR. I looked at weighted grounding into double plays, weighted stolen bases, and then just stolen bases. And I gave them all points based on who was ranked within all of that. And then I totaled it all up to give me my rankings. So for catching, at the top is JT Realmuto. So I have JT Realmuto up there. And then and then the other thing I took into consideration was playing time. So the amount of playing time that they have, there's a threshold for me where it's like, you didn't play enough for me to give you that award. And that's what I had to do with first baseman, because Paul Goldschmidt is number 2, but in terms of the rankings, Jace Peterson is actually higher. He's actually the highest out of the rankings that I have. But I went with Paul Goldschmidt for first base. Second base was Ozzie Albies. These stats are really starting to change my opinion of Ozzie Albies. Not that I thought Ozzie Albies was bad, but I didn't think he was as good as some of these metrics are saying that he is. But he's showing up on more and more stuff. We saw him on our defensive show last week, and now we're seeing him on base running this week. So, starting to change my opinion a little bit on Ozzie Albies. Shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr. Yeah, he had 100 less plate appearances, and the guy underneath him is Trey Turner. But I think my opinion with Fernando Tatis Jr. is he did a lot of damage at the plate with 100 less plate appearances. So I think that separates Fernando Tatis Jr. from somebody like Jace Peterson for me.
Yeah.
Third base, Chris Bryant just edges out Jose Ramirez. And then in the outfield, I have Starling Marte, Cedric Mullins, and Miles Straw. And then for my utility guy, you will, I think you'll appreciate this because it is your guy. Basically what I did was I took all of the rest of those guys, and I took basically who was the highest ranking out of the rest of them. And the highest ranking out of the rest of them was your guy, Dalton Varsho.
Wow. Well, I mean, apparently Sean's guy too. He has him at catcher. Just trying to see if there's any like consensus here. I see JT Realmuto a lot. That's the catcher. Freddie Freeman at first base. I'm the only one, the lone wolf, who picked Whit Merrifield. Everybody else has Tommy Edman and Ozzie Albies. Trey Turner seems to be a popular choice at shortstop. Jose Ramirez, although Melvin going with Jonathan Villar. Holy crap.
That's interesting. I kind of want to know.
Yeah. Chris, you can ask him tomorrow. Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor, that's a shocker coming from Henry. He also picked Chris Bryant as well, but Starling Marte shows up on everybody's list. Like I said, I'm still waiting for Vince, but I will share this in the Baseball Life Facebook group when the time comes in a little bit. Tim Lo Castro. So a little bit of StatCast love here from Henry, as Lo Castro is one of the fastest guys in all of baseball. Only question I have for him is that really how you spell his name? Because now I'm not sure.
So in my rankings, Chris Taylor is 4th among outfielders, but it is so Starling Marte, Cedric Mullins, and Miles Straw blew everybody else out of the water.
Yeah.
And then Chris Taylor was the next guy. So Miles Straw, who was 3rd, was double the amount of Chris Taylor, who is the next guy. So I could see why they put Chris Taylor there, but I had the other 4. Yeah, I had those other 3 way better than Chris Taylor.
All right, let's move on. Just trying to fix this. There you go. Here it is, the best hitters of 2021. This is our main event for the morning, I guess. So what I did was I took 4 this is what I did last year too. I took 4 advanced stats categories from Fangraphs. That's WOBA, which is weighted on base percentage. Weighted on base average. WRC plus, which is weighted runs created plus. That's the if you're above 100, you're good. If you're below 100, you're really bad, based on league, based on the rest of the league. Players offensive runs above replacement, which is the offensive metric that is used for Fangraphs' WAR calculation. WRC plus is like WRC plus, but this is the accumulated version of WRC plus. This is where it comes from. So where WRC plus is trying to figure out how you are compared to the rest of the league, WRC is just like, all it does is gobble up the data for that given season, and it just accumulates. So the method to the madness is we have a couple of rate stats kind of here for WOBA and WRC plus, and then we have 2 cumulative stats of advanced metrics notoriety, and that is supposed to give us a balance. But as you can see from this list, they're Austin. So who's who? I mean, there's really no doubt. There's no surprises here. There's no like, well, the advanced metrics are stupid because that's just analytics are anal or whatever. But I mean, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, Vladimir Guerrero, Fernando Tatis, Jesse Winker, Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Schwarber. You ever hear about these guys?
Oh, no, I don't know who any of those guys are.
Joey Votto, Nick Castellanos, Aaron Judge, finishing out in the top 10 here. I mean, those are your WOBA leaders right there. And as you can see, Bryce Harper finishing first in both rate stat categories. So that's the WOBA and the WRC plus. But again, it's the same guys: Vladimir Guerrero, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis, Shohei Ohtani, blah, 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 blah. So no surprises. And then you get to the cumulative stats, and then you see Trey Turner making his first appearance. Matt Olson, Brian Reynolds making an appearance. Brian Reynolds had a really good season this past year. I just don't know if I can trust him for the remainder of for 2022. But
I don't know, but he really helped me with my fantasy. So
yeah, I mean, 2021, that's going to be his breakout year, but can he continue doing that? We shall see. I mean, he's always had decent hit tools, but he plays for the Pirates. That's a bad thing. And we don't know who the real Brian Reynolds is as of right now in terms of major league talent, but we can make assumptions, but we shall see. And then WRC. So what was it? Oh yeah. So we mentioned Brian Reynolds, Matt Olson. And anybody else? Austin Riley showing up at the very last minute on this list in the WRC plus, rounding out the top 10. And I'm sorry, not WRC plus, just WRC weighted runs created. Austin Riley showing up in the top 10 at the very last minute. I almost didn't have a third baseman on this list. So that's kind of shocker to not see a third baseman in the top 10 of any of these categories, considering some of the third basemen that are out there in baseball right now.
Yeah, but do you think this is really starting to show a shift again in how positions are fielded again? Because it used to be your power hitters, your big bats were your first baseman and your third baseman. But now you're starting to see more of the power bats, your better hitters, as an outfielder, and not so much. And your third baseman is more a defensive type specialist that can hit the ball hard.
Well, from a fantasy perspective, outfield has always been very deep. Usually the top 5 guys were guys like Acuna and Trout. Although, shoot, if you've drafted Acuna and Trout this past year, you're feeling kind of disappointed and wondering where it all went wrong. Mookie Betts, guys like that. Who else was in the top 5?
I think if I had Mike Trout and Ronald Acuna, I would have been stoked, and then I would have quit fantasy.
Well, I mean, Christian Yelich, that was my guy. Christian Yelich for a long time. He was supposed to be a top 5, top 6, top 7 draft pick. So, but that's how deep the outfield is. I mean, you still have Juan Soto, you still got Bryce Harper. Shohei Ohtani eventually did qualify in the outfield in certain leagues. Brian Reynolds came out of nowhere. Aaron Judge is still productive as ever. I mean, let's take a look how this top 10 rounds out overall. So when you accumulate all these statistics, that's the big number you get. You get Bryce Harper, Juan Soto. Let's take a look here. I'm just gonna highlight all the outfielders that I see here. I'll put Ohtani in that list. Jesse Winker, Aaron Judge, Brian Reynolds, Kyle Schwarber, for better or for worse, is technically an outfielder. Kyle Tucker, Nick Castellanos. So let's see, how many outfielders is that? That's 9 outfielders on this top 18 list.
Yeah, I mean I think that's the shift we're starting to see in baseball is your better hitter. I mean, outfield was always deep, but when you talk about, perennial power hitters, usually you talk first base or third base usually. And then, you have some outfielders that are really good, but most of your really good top of the line hitters now are in the outfield or they've converted to the outfield because of their bat.
Yeah, and I think with third base, it's more of a shift towards more defensive oriented players. Yes. Not that third base is still a weak hitting position, but I mean we'll get to it in just a little bit. Matter of fact, let's get to it right now. So since Austin Riley finishing in as the only guy. Oh, let me make this bigger. So this was a last minute addition to my rankings. I didn't do this last year for individual positions, but the fact that Austin Riley was the only player to show up on that top 18 list I just showed you just had me curious. And really what it boiled down to was these 3 players right here: Austin Riley, Jose Ramirez, or Rafael Devers. Wait a minute. Did Jose Ramirez finish on this? Oh, whoops. I didn't see that. But yeah, you can see Austin Riley finished just with 2 points. Yeah. So Austin Riley finished with 2 points and Jose Ramirez just barely finished with 1 point. Therefore, last I checked, 2 beats 1 all the time. Austin Riley is the better third baseman, right? According to these metrics. But yeah, it was these 3 guys. And then the rest of them were just a mismatch of third basemen who had all types of issues that I can't remember what those issues were at this point. But I remember one of those guys being Justin Turner. And I'm like, okay, all right, he's not making the list.
Yeah, and in the Silver Slugger finalist, he's the second baseman. I'm like, how did he get in Silver Slugger for second base?
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, but he's a finalist for second base. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
So over at Fangraphs, so it was let's just say, for example, WOBA, weighted on base average, because I don't know. Let's just use that. Austin Riley, Rafael Devers, Jose Ramirez finish in the top 3. And then and they all finish above 370. So WOBA's supposed to look like a batting average. Those 3 guys finish above 370. And then it drops down to below 360 right away with Justin Turner, Chris Bryant, Josh Donaldson, Manny Machado, Yohan Moncada, Jeimer Candelario, Luis Urias rounding out the top 10. And then Nolan Arenado at number 11, and we all know what happened to him. But yeah, this position doesn't look as strong as before, where I could honestly make a case that third base for fantasy circles was 20 deep. And this year, that was not the case this past season. It seems like if you didn't have these three guys I have on the screen here, you were kind of scrambling around looking for any consistency of that position. So I'm left wondering if there's like a shift, like you mentioned, where real teams are like, no, we need our third baseman to be mobile, agile, and guys that could field their positions. And I mean, Chris Bryant, yeah, he qualifies at third base, but he mostly he also plays in the outfield as well. And as far as first base goes, I think that's part of the reason is there's a shift to well, number one is there's a shift that, well, anybody can play first base, right? Anyone can play first base. And then there's also a shift to where I think that there's a shift where you're trying to get more athletic guys in there. Not athletics like in Matt Olson, but just more athletically looking players at first base for whatever reason. And maybe that's part of the reason that they're not showing up like these power slugging hitters like the outfielders. And here's the WOBA list for first baseman. Vladimir Guerrero not just was the only player finishing over 100, but he demolished the competition. So in WOBA, Vladimir Guerrero finished at 419. Second place was Joey Votto at 391. That's a huge difference. It's a position that Vladimir Guerrero has dominated now this past season, followed by CJ Cron, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Matt Olson, Paul Goldschmidt, Yuli Gurriel, Pete Alonso, and Jarrett Walsh. So I don't know, man. It just it doesn't look as strong as in years past at first base either.
So the other thing that I was thinking was, you talked about how Chris Bryant plays third, but he also plays the outfield. I think, another thing that you could see is there are so many players now that can play more than one position. Yeah. And usually they can either play all of the outfield positions or they can play all of the infield positions. I mean, you talk about David Fletcher and Nikki Lopez. If you look at all of these guys and you start looking at their baseball reference page and you look at what position they're listed under, usually you see like two or three positions, and usually one of them is third base. So the other thing that I may be thinking is maybe it's these infield utility players playing third base, but it's never the same people playing third base. Austin Riley, Jose Ramirez, Rafael Devers, those are really the three that I can think of that consistently played third base besides Josh Donaldson.
And even Austin Riley, I don't know about this year, but I know in years past, he was sent to the left field mostly as well in years past. Yeah. So just like Chris Bryant, corner outfielder. Here's another name for you, Luis Urias. He came up as a shortstop, and then he played second base, and then he settled at third base this year. He qualifies at third base on the Fangraphs list. Eduardo Escobar could play second base as well. Ryan McMahon could play second, first, third, maybe some outfield. I believe. I don't remember. Yandy Diaz is a corner infielder, first base or third base. And then Joey Wendell, that guy plays everywhere. And he finished within the top 20 in terms of WOBA at third base. But it was a low WOBA, but still finishing out in the top 20. So I think that's I think we're onto something here. We'll see if that's the route that baseball wants to continue. But you would think that with everybody playing an extreme shift, or maybe that's why they play an extreme shift, because they want their third baseman to cover more ground than what they're used to.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah. But you would think that with the extreme shift that third baseman could still be that lead-footed, power-hitting sluggers that we all have in mind. But I guess that's not the case. So, yeah, good question there. I didn't even think about, evaluating the position in this manner. So we'll see. Because like I said, I'm still stuck in fantasy where there's it was a boatload of really good third basemen the last couple of seasons. But after seeing the numbers, we might have to rethink and reimagine the way we consider that position among fantasy circles.
It'll be really hard to field a third base position now because there's only 3. So,
Yeah. Really quick. So finishing in the top 2 among the best hitters in 2021, Vladimir Guerrero, Bryce Harper. At second, Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani finishing with 22 points. So the top 3 guys, Guerrero, Harper, Soto, garnered 30 plus points in my rankings. And then Ohtani finishes a distant 4th, inching ahead of Fernando Tatis. And then Jesse Winker making a surprise appearance in the top 10, finishing 6th overall, followed by Matt Olson, Trey Turner, Aaron Judge, and Freddie Freeman. Any surprises in the top 10 here on this list there, Austin?
Probably the biggest surprise is Winker.
Yeah, right.
Other than that, I mean, you're looking at the who's who of offense.
Yep.
And then Jesse Winker thrown in there. I mean, I'm surprised Jesse Winker is higher than his former teammate Nick Castellanos.
Yep.
I would have thought Castellanos would have been higher than Winker.
Yep. Unfortunately,
I traded Winker away in one of the fantasy leagues because I had him. He did really well, and then I thought he can't last for that long. He's going to falter. And somebody really, really wanted him, and I needed pitching, so I traded him away. It looks like he stayed the course. I'm really surprised.
what was gonna tell you? Oh yeah. So I mean, maybe you were kind of redeemed there because Winker got hurt late in the year. I mean, I had him in all my seemingly in all my fantasy leagues, and that's what sucked about him was that he got hurt really late, and he was having a really good season. Otherwise, he probably would have garnered points in the cumulative stats, in the accumulated stats here. But he's there because he got those rate stats up and running, and Castellanos got what, 7th place in WOBA, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Winker was off to a great start. I mean, we talked about Brian Reynolds having a breakout year. Winker, I mean, this is the guy we always knew he had it in him, and he finally showcased, and then he got hurt. So, but who knows?
He had a great start.
I mean, he was saving my fantasy seasons, but who knows what would have happened had he stayed healthy, and if he would have been able to get some points on the cumulative stats and maybe move up, maybe even threaten Shohei Ohtani, and maybe have people rethink how they're viewing the MVP for this season. But one thing for sure there, Austin, is where are the catchers? There are no catchers here. Don't worry, fam. I gotcha. Oh, I got to make this bigger. Hold on. I know when the hot pink blink. That kid only I love my colors, bro. I love my colors. Here's the top 10 list among catchers for the same statistics because no catcher finished in the top 18 of that previous list. So I had to make my own spreadsheet for the catchers, as always, just like I did last year, where Salvador Perez was the unanimous winner, I guess, from what I remember. But this year, you had a little bit of a challenge with Buster Posey finishing ahead of him on these hitting stats, despite the fact that Salvador Perez had a monster year this past year. It did not translate to these hitting stats that are supposed to encompass like all production that a hitter is able to produce in a given season. But yeah, Will Smith had a wonderful year. He finishes third. I mean, it was a lot closer than people think in terms of these metrics. So with 37 points, Buster Posey finishes in first, Salvador Perez with 36 points, Will Smith with 35, and then Tyler Stevenson, who Sean was bragging about all year long in the second half, finishes fourth on this list with 25 points, followed by JT Realmuto with 24, Wilson Contreras with 23, and then Omar Narvaez, Gary Sanchez, Sean Murphy, Jacob Stallings, rounding out the top 10. What do you make of this list there, Austin?
I think this is my tribute to Buster Posey for a second. What a way to ride off into the sunset.
Exactly.
Like there are not very many players that will go out on top like Buster Posey did. And Buster Posey, I mean, there's talk out there that Buster Posey had somewhat of an overrated career and Joe Mauer is better than Buster Posey and blah, 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 whatever. But the point is, I don't give a crap what you think. Buster Posey, in my opinion, was a fantastic catcher, had a great, fantastic career as a catcher, and just I wouldn't have expected anything different than for Buster Posey to ride into the sunset on top. So congratulations on a fantastic career, Buster Posey, and thanks for the memories. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, Fall Out Boy, I hear you.
He was one of my favorite catchers to watch. My
Same.
two favorite catchers to watch of recent times in terms of being behind the plate and, you know, in Buster Posey's case at the plate as well, is Buster Posey and Yadier Molina. Those are the two catchers that I really, really enjoy watching behind the plate. And so, you know, it's so weird because I'm getting to that age now where I'm starting to see players and their entire career. So I saw Buster Posey as a rookie and then go all the way through his career. And so, it's really nice to see just an entire person's career. And actually, AJ's not on here. I thought AJ was on here. It's actually Manny. And yeah, I don't know. Buster Posey was one of my favorite people to watch, and I'm really glad that he was able to go out on top.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked to see him beat out Salvador Perez because Perez had a really good year.
Yes,
a majestic year. I mean, I don't think who knows if we're ever going to see that ever again from a catcher. But I thought the same thing. Wow, what a way to finish out your career that you still show that you're one of the best hitting catchers. And maybe, according to this list in front of you, you did finish as the best hitting catcher in 2021, your final season. And you helped your team make the playoffs. And it was a great way to ride off the sunset. So, but I know that traditional fans will say, "Oh, well, come on, you're gonna not give it to Salvador Perez as the best hitting catcher of 2021." I mean, all the traditional numbers, all the counting stats show that Salvador Perez blows everybody else at that position out of the water. But Posey was no slouch, man. He really did come through this year. I just want to point out Manny Hernandez. Good morning to you, sir. Pointing out that Matt Chapman had a really bad hitting year. Yeah, that was a name. I was kind of looking everywhere. Where is Matt Chapman? And then I remember, oh, right. He was awful this year.
Yeah. Remember when we talked about it mid-season and I said one of the biggest disappointments was Matt Chapman, simply because I had him on my fantasy team and I benched him a lot. But he was one of those players I could not get rid of him because he was Matt Chapman. You kept thinking sooner or later he's going to change. He's going to figure it out. And he never did figure it out. He had a really bad hitting season this year.
Yeah, we were just kind of waiting all year long. I mean, hey, this is going to be the week that Chapman's going to turn things around. He's too good of a hitter. His StatCast numbers are still showing that he's a really good hitter. He's hitting the ball with authority, and it didn't happen for whatever
Brandon
reason.
Lau was the other one, and I finally got rid of him because he made me really mad.
Oh yeah, that's the guy that'll piss you off every single time. I mean, yeah, he's another guy who has like all the sexy what do you call it? The sexy counting stats.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I believe he strikes out like a bunch of times. He
strikes out a lot.
Yeah, so that's gonna make you pull your hair out.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, it's now time to look at the podcast list. Who, the Dong City, the Melvins of the world, who do we? So I'm still waiting on the other guys because I just shared this with them, so the list isn't filled out all the way through. But Austin and we do have our list up and running for this show. And there it is, Buster Posey, based on the chart I just shared, this one right here. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Buster Posey as he rides off into the sunset. And as my number one catcher, you went with JT Realmuto. So no Salvador Perez love from you either, huh?
No. So you ready? I did something completely different. So this. I told you guys, you guys are probably not going to like my list because, so I have been talking to another Baseball Life member by the name of Jonathan, and Jonathan, he and I have been talking quite a bit privately, and he pretty much created, or he came up with his own statistic that actually measures different facets of offense. So they measure the they measure their small ball ability, their ability to hit small ball, which focuses on walks, singles, and a combination of stolen bases and sacrifice hits. You have the middle ball, which is basically it focuses on walks, singles, and doubles. And then you have the big ball average, which focuses on extra base hits, RBIs, and walks, right? Because they have to have the ability to get on base. And then basically he did what is called the harmonic average. He takes harmonic average of those data points, and then he created those numbers. And then he takes the harmonic averages of those harmonic averages, and he creates an all ball number, right? And an all ball number is basically encompassing the best all-around players.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, or best all around offensive players. And it's really, really interesting to watch these numbers because he's done an all time list and he's released out on Twitter and stuff like that. And, it shows the main reason why he did this is because he was trying to figure out where specifically Ricky Henderson. He didn't think Ricky Henderson was getting as much love as he needed to be. And according to the all ball statistic, Ricky Henderson is the 19th best player all time in terms of all around offense. Right. So, and this statistic is starting to get some attention. You've got Bob Kendrick, who is the president of the Negro League Baseball Museum. And then, Howard Bryant, who was part of Ken Burns' baseball documentary, and he's part of Once Upon a Time in Queens. He's actually writing a book about Ricky Henderson, and he's starting to use Jonathan in footnotes and stuff like that. So I decided to give this a crack and try it for the 2021 season in terms of who was the best all-around offensive player, because when I think of offense, I think of best all around. Like, you have to be able to play small ball, middle ball, and big ball. You have to be able to do it all, right? So yes, catching, the best all-around hitter in terms of the all-ball statistic was JT Realmuto.
Wow. All right. I mean, hey, you just got to give me a methodology, man. If that's the way you want to go to, you want to stick to your guns with that, that's fine, man. I mean, I have a bigger problem with Paul Goldschmidt being your first baseman. Vladimir Guerrero is my AL MVP, as I highlighted in green. But you went with Paul Goldschmidt. Why?
Paul Goldschmidt, again, all ball, all the way around. Now, I think that was one of the biggest omissions. I fully expected to see Vladimir Guerrero at the top. The problem is Vladimir Guerrero's small ball number is really low. Okay, his walks and his sacrifice hits and his stolen bases and things like that. He does not play small ball very well. Now, in terms of middle ball, he's kind of in the middle or kind of closer to the top, but somewhere in the middle. Big ball, he's at the top, right? Mm-hmm. He's right up at the top, if not at the top, right? But his small ball number drags him down, and it drags him down quite a bit. So that's why I don't have Vladimir Guerrero. But Paul Goldschmidt, in terms of the all ball number, is 12th in all of the qualified hitters, which is out of a sample size of 188 hitters. Paul Goldschmidt is 12th.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I put Paul Goldschmidt as my first base pick.
All right. Well, I mean, like I said, if you're willing to stick with that methodology, that's fine. But let's face it, Goldschmidt did have a bounce back year. Everybody thought he was done, but 31 home runs, 12 stolen bases, still one of the more prolific stolen base guys in that position.
Great base runner he's a great stolen base guy for a first baseman.
No, you had it right. He's a great base runner too. 2.3 base running metric. So is Freddie Freeman though. No, I mean, people thought he was done, and he pretty much helped the Cardinals win the NL Central. He made Nolan Arenado look good because he was always on base, so Arenado could just put the ball in play and is able to drive in Goldschmidt. And if you see Arenado's 2021 like batted ball data, he's just basically trying to drive a ball in the air and hope that something good happens. And that's all he's doing. I mean, that's why he was so bad this year. But the thing that saves him is that he was able to, first of all, get a lot of playing time. And more playing time means that he gets to pad those stats, the home runs, the RBI, the run scored. And that makes those numbers look good. But from a percentage standpoint, from a slash line standpoint, he was awful. But thank God for Paul Goldschmidt, though, because he was always there when he needed him the most. So he was able to take advantage of that.
For this statistic, this methodology that I have, the next best first baseman, man, you'll like this one, Matt Olson.
Oh, wow. So you can't even say that. This harmonic average only favors people with small ball tendencies. Matt Olson, I don't think he's a small ball guy. He's a big hulking power mass of slug right there. beating out Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in that statistic as well. That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
Moving on, second baseman, I got Marcus Semien. You got Whit Merrifield. Obviously, that's a small ball. That has to do something with the fact that small ball is in favor here, right?
I have a feeling that is what it is. I mean, this spreadsheet is huge. But let's see. Whit Merrifield, in terms of his small ball statistic, is second in all of the MLB, just behind. I mean, just a tenth of a point behind Miles Straw. Yeah. In terms of middle ball, you've got Whit Merrifield is Whit Merrifield in terms of middle ball is 18th. Mm-hmm. And then big ball, I'm sure he's nowhere close. But yeah, the fact that he's up there in terms of small ball and middle ball really drives him up into the best all around second baseman for this statistic.
Moving on to shortstop, we're at consensus here. We both got Fernando Tatis Jr. And moving on to third base, as we showed in the other, it was either Austin Riley, Rafael Devers, or Jose Ramirez. I got Austin Riley just based on the metrics that I was using. You went with Jose Ramirez, which honestly, you can't go wrong with either or. Really,
Jose Ramirez, in terms of the statistic that I did, number one.
Yeah, I'm not surprised there. We both have Bryce Harper as our National League MVP. Cedric Mullins with a breakout year as one of your outfielders, Juan Soto, and I got Shohei Ohtani because I think he did play some outfield this year. And if not, I'm using my podcast privileges to put him in there at outfield. And then you got Robbie Grossman, and now I understand why he's there. Is it because of the harmonic average that favors?
It is because of the harmonic averages. So number one in the all ball was Jose Ramirez. Mm-hmm. Number two, Cedric Mullins. Mm-hmm. Number three, Bryce Harper, and then Robbie Grossman finished sixth.
Oh my God. Wow.
So something cooking out there in Detroit, maybe.
Hey, people want fundamentals. They want small ball. They want more contact. They want more balls in play. We just have to create more Robbie Grossmans in this world. So as far as the hard data, like the traditional sense, 23 home runs, 20 stolen bases. Very good plate discipline this year with the Tigers. At 31 years old, Grossman he did lack a little bit of power, but I mean, and the batting average was awful, but 357 on base percentage, you'll take that from anybody. As far as the advanced metrics go, only a 337 WOBA, which is okay, but it's not a world beating statistic. And he was he was at 114 WRC plus. So that means he was 14% better than league average. Let's see what else. Like I said, very patient hitter. Only swung at 19% of swings outside the strike zone, which is ludicrous to me. I know it's Robbie Grossman. I know he's like an Oakland A's product of sorts. Or in Astros. I believe he's the Astros, but I know he played with the A's. But yeah, two analytically driven organizations there who preach about, being patient, limiting your strikeouts and all that. And then when you look at the StatCast data, I mean, it's exit velocity of 87.8 miles an hour. So that's pretty low. But that's why he made it, because I don't want to use this term, but punch and Judy hitters, man. That sounds like that whatever harmonic average is calculating there, they tend to, what do you call it? Favor those, for lack of a better term, punch and Judy hitters. So,
well, I don't know. Let's look at the top 15 here. Top 15, you got Jose Ramirez, Cedric Mullins, Bryce Harper, Shohei Ohtani, which is why I have him as my utility hitter there. Then Whit Merrifield, Robbie Grossman, and then Manny Machado right after that. Yeah. Marcus Semien right underneath Manny Machado. Fernando Tatis Jr. And then rounding out the top 10 is Ozzie Albies. 11th is Trey Turner. Yeah. 12th is Goldschmidt. 13th, Miles Straw. 14th, Matt Olson. 15th, Randy Arozarena.
What a list, man. That is an interesting list. And then Robbie Grossman just sticks out like a sore thumb, but he has to move. He had to be assisted heavily by that small ball metric. So from a harmonic average, I mean, that's the only way. Otherwise, there's no way he makes the top 15, which people are wondering, where are we going to get these balls in play? Where are we going to get this small ball tendencies? Where are we going to get those fundamental hitters from 1967? There it is. Robbie Grossman's your guy. And he literally is playing with the Tigers, who won the championship in 67. No, 68.
Somewhere around there. So Robbie Grossman is sixth
1968. Yeah.
in all ball. Robbie Grossman in, let's see, is he anywhere in mid ball? I don't see him in mid ball.
Okay.
But I mean, obviously he's on the list, but he's not on the list that I'm seeing right now. And then big ball, I'm not sure if he's on there either, but small ball,
I would be so shocked if he is, though.
Small ball, he is 6th.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Robbie Grossman, yeah, I don't see him on the. I mean, I could scroll down, but I don't really want to. Oh, there he is. He's 35th in big ball.
Jesus, top 35 though. That's pretty decent. That's pretty good.
35 in big ball.
So what would he do?
Now I'm really interested to see where he's at in mid ball. Middle ball. Oh wow, he's. Yeah, I can't find him, but I'm scrolling really fast, so I might have missed him.
Well, the fact that he's on your list, that shows.
Oh, there he is, 57th.
Oh wow, that's a lot lower than I expected. But hey, but the fact that he's on the list just shows that what harmonic average can do to evaluate players as well. But yeah, 68 was the year that the Tigers won. 67, the Cardinals beat the Red Sox that season. So,
there you go.
But yeah, Tigers, it all goes back to the Tigers. So I can only imagine what Robbie Grossman can do when he plays in a hitter-friendly ballpark, because Oakland, even Houston has gotten some flack for not being that hitter-friendly ballpark. Well, I should take that back, because depending on what technology they're using, it could be a very hitter-friendly ballpark. Ask the Dodgers, ask all those scrub pitchers that everybody felt sorry for. The other thing about I had something to say. Oh yeah, I was going to mention the 2017 Astros when you were talking about trade deadline. Yeah, that was a big move that they made in the August 31st deadline, right? Was acquiring Justin Verlander.
Yes.
And
at the last minute.
At the very last minute. And I remember 2017 Astros players were complaining to the front office, hey, show us that you believe in us by getting a big name. Let's go. We need help for the championship run. And Justin Verlander proved to be the big difference maker, along with the technology that they were using, the buzzers, the cameras, the laptops, the garbage cans, all that. Matt Olson, I was just telling my guy Manuel that it was either him on my utility spot or Jesse Winker. And I went, even though Winker finished ahead in my spreadsheet for the best hitters, I went with Matt Olson for the simple fact that Matt Olson actually played the entirety of the year, unlike Jesse Winker. So, but yeah, I don't think I could have gone wrong. And then you picked Shohei Ohtani not only as your utility spot guy, but also as your AL MVP, which for those who don't know, I am a firm believer that MVP is for hitters only. Cy Young is for pitchers only. And that just makes my life easier. I'm a firm believer that they should just change the name to MVP to just best hitter of the year and just forget this MVP nonsense, because it's really hard. It's really hard to gauge. Baseball nowadays is so specialized. Like, I don't see it. I mean, pitchers only pitch, and the DH is going to come. So they're going to be, what's that word I'm looking for? Obsolete in terms of being all around players anyway, pretty soon in Major League Baseball. So I just don't see a point to it, but yeah. I have Guerrero as my AL MVP, Austin as Shohei Ohtani, and then we both have Bryce Harper. I have a feeling that the rest of these guys are going to go with a combination of Bryce Harper and Ohtani, or Guerrero as well. But I think Ohtani might edge, according to these other guys right here, Sean, Vince, Henry, Melvin. They might, by process of voting, they might select Shohei Ohtani as their AL MVP. All right, let's quickly move on to yes. Do you have that? Can you send me that link? I forgot to.
The link. I have it up. I forgot to send it. 2 seconds.
Yeah.
While I'm doing that, you want to know who's last in terms of the all ball?
Sure, go ahead.
So this will make Vince happy. Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez is last.
That sucks for me. There's a reason why I didn't win the championship in the Baseball Life Fantasy League.
I just sent it to you.
Oh, thank you. All right, so let's see who these wonderful writers decided to nominate this year, and let's go American League at first base. The nominees are Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Yuli Gurriel, and Matt Olson. Hey guys, if you're listening still, feel free to make your predictions for your Silver Slugger award recipients. So starting at first base, who do you have winning the Silver Slugger at first base of those three names?
Out of those three, it's obvious. It's obviously going to be Guerrero.
Oh yeah. You could say that he may not get MVP, but come on, if he doesn't win this one, I don't know. I mean, from a statistical standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, this was the year of Vladimir Guerrero. Excuse me, at second base, Marcus Semien, Jose Altuve, and DJ LeMahieu, along with Jorge Polanco. Wow, 4 nominees. Who is the choice here?
Who the hell put DJ LeMahieu as a finalist?
It's if it's the baseball writers, you know how those Yankee writers can be biased and stuff. So
he had a league average season. Like who? Why? Anyway. My
that's
pick.
The writers for you, man.
My pick would be Semien.
All right. So far, unanimous votes. We're in agreement here. Third base, Rafael Devers, Jose Ramirez, and Kyle Seager. Who's your guy?
I believe I'm trying to find my spreadsheet because I did.
So again, this is who we think the writers are going to go with, not the guys we would vote for, right?
That's
what we did last time too. We went with the guys who the writers might pick as a winner here.
So that's third base or for shortstop?
Third base. Sorry, go ahead.
Ramirez.
Yeah, I think that's going to be who the writers unanimously pick as well. Although if I had a vote, I'd vote for Rafael Devers because he helped me in my fantasy league. So I'm selfish that way. Shortstop, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts, Tim Anderson, or Bo Bichette.
Oh, that one's tough. I'm thinking Correa.
All right. So far, we are in acquiescence. And the outfield, they did not split it this time around. So let me fix that. Remember for the Gold Glove, they split the position into 3 parts. They did not do that here. So, and this is
way to be consistent, MLB.
Well, Gold Gloves is a defensive award, blah, blah, blah. All right. So, we got to pick 3 here. Cedric Mullins, Teoscar Hernandez, Aaron Judge, Kyle Tucker, Mitch Haniger, Lourdes Gurriel, Hunter Renfroe, and Randy Arozarena. Oh, wow. Okay. So we got to think like writers. We're fat. We're lousy. We're lazy. We're stupid. I'm just joking, guys. Come
on. Aaron Judge.
Okay.
Kyle Tucker.
Ooh, I like that.
And Mullins.
Yeah, there you go. You know what? I might just agree with you here. Let me just double check. So yeah, Cedric Mullins is one for sure. Aaron Judge. Yeah, Randy Arozarena. They love
Randy Arozarena, but I don't know. I think they'll go Tucker. I really do.
I'm gonna just so we can do something different. I'm gonna go that. I think this might be the one right here. This might be the one where they're gonna be like, "Oh, we gotta vote for Sunrise. We have to."
That's what you call him. I was like, I know it's something to do with rice.
Yeah, because we established that Sunrise sounds better than rice sand. So
yeah.
At DH, Shohei Ohtani, Yordan Alvarez, Giancarlo Stanton, Joey Gallo, Nelson Cruz. Why do we need so many nominees?
Come on, guys. I mean, you only need one.
Well, I mean, Yordan Alvarez had a really good season, but yeah, but he wasn't mentioned not once in any of these spreadsheets I created for this show. No. So Shohei Ohtani is your DH. At catcher, Salvador Perez, Mike Zunino, Gary Sanchez. Why is Gary Sanchez here?
Because he's a Yankee.
Now you're learning, man. Now you're learning.
Salvador Perez.
Yeah. So these are pretty cut and dry in terms of the writers. I like my list better than the writers' list, honestly, but I'm not that I'm biased or anything. Let's start with catcher here in National League. I got Buster Posey, Will Smith, JT Realmuto, and Omar Narvaez. Come on.
Yeah, it's got to be Posey.
All right. First base, Freddie Freeman, Joey Votto, Paul Goldschmidt, Max Muncy. I honestly think they're going to vote for Freddie Freeman. I don't know.
They'll vote for Freeman because he's liked.
Very likable, yeah.
I mean, he had a good season. But me personally, I would not give him the Silver Slugger. I would give it to Goldschmidt in that group. But
yes, you would. Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I think because he's well liked.
All right. What are we doing here? Second base. Ozzie Albies, Jonathan India, Jake Cronenworth, Justin Turner. It's Ozzie Albies.
Yeah, it's got to be Albies. I mean, the only other thing that I can think of is they pick India for the story, but.
Yeah. And they also pick India as a superpower as well. I love geography jokes, man. I can't help it. At shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., Brandon Crawford, Trey Turner, or Willie Adames. Who are the writers voting for?
Tatis.
This is becoming a very bland exercise. I don't even know why we're bothering doing this,
I
but
know.
yeah, I honestly like my list, the list that you and I created over these.
Yeah.
He's so bland, just like British cooking or something. At third base, Austin Riley, Manny Machado, Nolan Arenado, and Patrick Wisdom. I swear to God, if Nolan Arenado wins this goddamn award, I am gonna scream and wake up the baby.
Yeah, I think it's Austin Riley. I wanted to joke and say Patrick Wisdom, but
Patrick Wisdom teeth? I don't think so. So Austin Riley is our unanimous choice here. Well, so we've gone straight vanilla and chalk here. Now it gets interesting. Juan Soto for outfield, Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper, Brian Reynolds, Adam Duvall, Jesse Winker, Tyler O'Neill. I'm just gonna start typing here. So the obvious choices are Juan Soto, Bryce Harper.
I mean, Juan Soto and Bryce Harper. Give me the other ones again.
Nick Castellanos, Brian Reynolds, Adam Duvall, Jesse Winker, or Tyler O'Neill.
I'm gonna go with Brian Reynolds.
Oh, some Pirates love by the writers. Okay, you're a brave man. I like it. Where is it? Brian Reynolds. All right.
I was thinking either Castellanos or Reynolds. I'm thinking they'll give it to Reynolds.
Now it gets really fun here. Herman Marquez, Max Fried, Jacob DeGrom, or Madison Bumgarner as your pitcher. I can't wait for the DH to arrive to the NL so we can stop pretending like this is something that matters.
I'm thinking Fried.
That's what I'm thinking too. But
I think it's a competition between Fried. I don't know. They like Bumgarner, so they may consider Bumgarner, but I'm thinking it's a competition between Marquez and Fried. Or they
DeGrom.
may. I mean, I don't know. Maybe DeGrom because everybody loves DeGrom, even though he only played half the season.
And that's gonna hurt him, along with his elbow and forearm. But that's gonna hurt him too. Is the fact that he didn't play the entirety of the year. But like you said, people love DeGrom. Yeah. For one thing's for sure, Herman Marquez is not getting this because the Coors Field effect. He's going to get penalized for that, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Who cares? And Bumgarner, I think the more I just talked myself into voting for Max Fried as well. So there you go. This is how we think the writers are going to go with for these awards.
Pretty much the same.
I believe. Oh, we've made it. Austin, we made it. There's my baby. Hello. So we made it, bro. Thank you so much for what do you call it? Entertaining me on this one. Going through this list. We still have to talk about pitchers and rookies in future episodes, hoping to get those done sometime this week, if not before next Sunday. Go ahead and plug your show one more time there, Austin.
So my show is the Round Trippers podcast, and you can find me on Spotify and Google Podcasts and probably pretty much anywhere you are listening to podcasts. I'm also on Twitter at @round_trippers. And yeah, I got a couple things lined up for the next couple of weeks. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on with Melvin. And then I will the week after that, I will be on with Jonathan, the gentleman that I mentioned earlier in this episode. So we've got some good things coming up for the off season. And yeah, Round Trippers podcast. If you haven't checked it out yet, go ahead and check it out.
All right. And
can I plug one more thing?
Just go ahead, bud.
So I'm part of the Pop Culture Life.
Yes.
The Pop Culture Life event we got going on over there. We're going to be starting a podcast where we are debating the greatest winter holiday movie of all time. We are recording this on Sunday, so the podcast is actually going to start tonight. We have a 32 movie March Madness style bracket of all kinds of holiday movies, and we're going to debate over which is going to be the greatest winter holiday movie of all time. So go ahead and check that out. I think and if you're listening to this and are not part of any of the life groups, join Baseball Life and join Pop Culture Life and tune in to us live for all of that debate.
So, wait, I'm just double checking. You're going to be on tonight as well, right? You said?
I will not be on the podcast tonight.
I didn't see your name. That's why I'm asking.
No, it'll be Vince and Jake, but I will be on the other episodes. I'm going to be kind of like a producer that kind of chimes in and gives fun facts and witty remarks and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm my part of the show is I'm running the bracket. So I'm going to run the bracket and keep track of the votes and all of that stuff.
All right. Well, like Austin mentioned, we do have other podcasts. We do have other, we do have other life groups, football life, basketball life, all those other sports ventures. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. We do have other podcasts, the Dong Cities of the World, the Step Back, the Audible. But yeah, check us out. Be sure to subscribe, like. If you're listening to audio only, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple. Please subscribe, like, share, leave a review if it allows you to. We're also on Stitcher, Google Podcasts, all the major podcast platforms. And if you like to see the visuals of the spreadsheets, you can either tune in live. At the moment, it's going to be Sunday mornings, or you can go to our YouTube page and check out the spreadsheets there. For Austin, I am Felipe. We will see you next time. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one.